We are just over 1 month away from college football, and it turns out the House settlement is not settled. Welcome on into the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report. I'm your host, Mike G, and thank you so much for turning us up and turning us on a Thursday morning. It's time to get going. We're getting and goings. My good friend Jacob Goins joins the show here on a Thursday. We spent some time with each other last week at the College Football Hall of Fame for SEC Media Days. Lots of great coverage. Jacob, you guys did a wonderful job bringing your listeners and my listeners lots of great extra coverage from SEC Media Days. But on today's show, I want to talk about the House settlement, and then I want to talk in the second half of the show about where Auburn goes from here. As reported by On3, there was a settlement reached over the status of collectives. And this is a big thing that we have talked about on this show, Jacob, about whether or not NIL Go would determine that deals done through the collectives were essentially an extension of the university, and whether those deals would count toward that $20.5 million cap. Auburn, John Cohen, Hugh, they all bet that they would. And this settlement essentially paves the way for those deals, not as NIL collectives are to be treated as any other third-party business entity. I cover UCF. UCF fans were like, our AD nuked the Kingdom for nothing. The Kingdom was their collective. People are upset. They're confused. They're bewildered. Yeah. Talk to me, man, about this settlement, man, and what this means for Auburn and the stance that they've taken here on NIL and how they about face even.
What a disaster. I mean, that's all that this is to me. I mean, we talked so much about this on my show yesterday when everything was kind of getting settled out and finalized. And basically, the way that I look at it, Mike, is the NCAA folded. The NCAA, the House, everybody basically said, look, we can't control this. We're scared to death of being sued. So we're just going to give in, let them kind of do whatever they want to do, them being college athletic departments and football programs and NIL and all this other mess, right? They're just going to let it be a free-for-all like it already has been. They've tried to put some strains on this and chains and tried to restrict it a little bit, but here we are, and we're going right back to what it was initially, which is just, hey, we could pay however much we want because we have more money than you. And look, they're still trying to get some stuff figured out in terms of what the actual revenue cap is going to be and how much you can put per deal, right? They're saying like 500 or $2,000 or $5,000. Like, I don't know. But they're trying to get all that figured out still. But there will be no limitations, as far as I know, on how many of those deals you make, how many payments you send, how many athletes you get. Like, none of that's going to be restricted because it's all going to be inclusive and it's all just going to be up to these universities. And so basically, to simplify all of this, pay to win is here to stay. That's what it means. And what it means for Auburn is, unfortunately, John Cohen and Hugh Freeze were wrong. They were on the wrong side of this. They were preparing for multiple situations, multiple scenarios, multiple outcomes. And look, John Cohen told us that in Atlanta at the ambush event. He said, don't confuse silence or patience with inactivity, meaning that we're prepared to go with whatever direction that this goes. Yeah. But they were hoping that this would be kind of pulled back a little bit, that there would be some limitations and there would also be some punishments. And that's just not going to happen. And I don't know if you saw this, Mike. There are now states already pushing to basically ban the NCAA from punishing their universities for breaking NIL rules. New Jersey, I believe, was the first one to do it. So take somebody like Rutgers, for example. Oh, they go over NIL cap or revenue sharing and things. Oh, it's okay. The NCAA can't do anything about it because the state of New Jersey made it a law that they couldn't come in and punish them. It's wild to think about. But for Auburn, they were on the wrong side of this decision, unfortunately.
Yeah, local state legislation essentially is one of the things that sparked the need for some kind of unified approach here, as certain states pass certain laws that make it either easier or more difficult on their institutions to take advantage of these new NIL rules. Coming back here to the conversations, they described conversations with council as ongoing, and On3 reports here that nothing, like technically nothing has been, but told On3 in the last week that they were actively speaking with lawyers about bringing suits forward against the College Sports Commission and the NIL clearinghouse, NIL Go, if changes were not made. Last week at SEC Media Days, I sat down with SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey and asked about his level of frustration with people asking for guardrails and then doing this, literally mounting legal challenges to the guardrails that they put in place, saying, hey, this is what the spirit of the rules intended. But if you want, he said, if you want to just spend into oblivion and you don't want the guardrails, just say so. We'll remove it and we'll let you spin into oblivion. As part of the agreement, Jacob, the College Sports Commission is expected to treat collectives or any school associate entity in a similar fashion as other businesses when determining the legitimacy of third-party NIL deals submitted to NIL Go, right? So this is significant, right? They're not going to automatically look at collectives and say, nope, that counts towards your cap. But it doesn't mean that every deal will get through, though, just because it's from the collective and not count toward the cap, I mean. So there's going to be some finagling here, I think, by the universities to figure out how do we outspend the cap without being penalized or without being caught?
Well, my concern with all of that, Mike, is even if they have some sort of language written out, what constitutes a legitimate deal? What are the standards for it to be a legitimate NIL funding or NIL money or legitimate payments from one entity to a player or a group of players or whatever? I mean, how, to be honest with you, how can you legally say that it's not legit if all you have to do is come up with some BS reason that it is legit? You can't tell them it's not, and that's the problem here. And that's why I think there's major concern within the NCAA, because they've realized that they can't control these kids. They can't control the kids, they can't control the schools, and they can't control the money. And they're in big, big trouble because of that. And so they'll try to lay it out, but as soon as they decline that first NIL deal, boom, lawsuit. The second time, boom, lawsuit. And they're just going to be piled up time after time after time to where there's nothing they can do. And these schools are just going to keep spending and making deals and doing whatever. And so that's the concern that I have. And Pete Nakos said it best. When the news broke, he basically said, nothing is slowing down a school from building out a $35 million roster. That's what he said. That's what this entire thing means, is pay to win is still here. It's only going to get worse. And again, Auburn was on the wrong side of this decision. That could have gone a bunch of different ways. Auburn was just on the wrong side of it, and pay to win is here to stay.
Indeed, it appears pay to win is here to stay. I'm not sure that we thought it was going anywhere, but like, what are the rules, so, that encompass that, and what are schools allowed to do and what are they not allowed to do? I don't think Auburn has any issue spending money, but if you are one that is for following the rules, maybe this ruling is a blessing because it allows you to about face here before you lose the opportunity. A really good 2026 recruiting class. Auburn just recently landed Jaquez Wilkes, the top 100 4-star edge, and this could have been as a result of anticipation of this rule dropping. And they said, okay, guys, we tried to be rule followers. Let's just drop the bag, man, and get these guys in the door. Where does Auburn go from here? We'll talk about that right after a quick word from our sponsor. This episode of the Auburn Express is brought to you by our friends at the Vibe Vault. You can find them at 3462 Crosswinds Road, Suite E in Phoenix City, Alabama. That's right across the street from the Chattahoochee Valley Community College, next to Renfro's Supermarket and Marco's Pizza. The Vibe Vault. If you're in the Columbus, Phoenix City area and you're looking to get fresh for the weekend, get fresh for the weekend with the Vibe Vault. Not just barbers, lifestyle consultants. This episode of the War Report is brought to you by our friends at the Rogue Shop. Visit rogueshop.com. Use code REPORT to get 15% off your Rogue Shop order. Pain, sleep, stress, anxiety, whatever ails you in life. The Rogue Shop has something that has you cover. Our guy Richard, a longtime sponsor of the show. Visit him for all your herbal medicinal needs. I want to thank our friends at setsforsociety.ai. Do you want to get to know yourself and your team and know yourself within a team? Setsforsociety.ai allows you to tune in and stand out. They offer a unique personality assessment that tells you not only how you relate to your team, but how you learn, how you interact in the day-to-day, and how to improve all those engagements and achieve the success that you've been wanting to in life. That's for society.ai. Visit them to get started on your personality assessment today and get to know yourself. Also want to thank our friends at Golden's Cast Iron. Visit goldenscastiron.com/WR. Use code Get Your Weight Up for 15% off your weights and code TWR for $65 off fire pits and Kamado grills. It's the summer. Be outside grilling and chilling, or just staying in shape. Work out, grill out, chill out with Golden's Cast Iron. Jacob, where does Auburn go from here? As I mentioned, they landed top 100 player Jacquez Wilkes, 4-star edge. They dropped the bag. Jacob, they dropped the bag. And I'm telling you, I think they dropped the bag in anticipation of the news that's breaking right now that we're talking about today. Auburn, I get a sense after talking to a certain administrative official, I think they faced about a week ago, right in dead smack in the middle of SEC media days. So this is what we were trying to tell people. If they're wrong, there was still time. No recruit signs until December. Everyone's freaking out about where Auburn's recruiting class was in July. But I think there's still time for them to go in and pull in a top 12, maybe even a top 10 class, if they get the same kind of flips that they got last season en route to a top 10 class.
Well, I think with this news coming out when it did right here in mid to late July, we still have, about a week or so before July is over. And that August 1 date does come into effect, right? Something that John Cohen has talked a lot about, the AD at Auburn. Maybe that day does benefit you a little bit more than we were thinking now that there is some clarity. And look, I understand where Auburn was coming from. I understand why Hugh Freeze, John Cohen, the entire athletics department was operating the way that they were. And I've said this on your show. I've said it on mine. I've said it everywhere. You have a head coach with Hugh Freeze, and I don't mean this in any negative way. You're talking about a guy that's been in trouble before and wants to do things the right way. John Cohen's a clear-cut guy. You want them to all do it the right way. I totally understand why they were going in this direction. It's just unfortunate that every other team around them, basically all the teams in the SEC, Big Ten, and beyond, everybody else said, well, we're going to break the rules because so are you, and you can't stop us all. Yet Auburn decided to take the high road, and unfortunately, the high road was a dead end. And so now you understand that it is a free-for-all. It is pay to win, or at least pay to compete. And now you've got some ground to make up, some serious ground to make up. Last time I checked, you were 65th in recruiting rankings. That's with Jacquez Wilkes, who is your highest rated commit in the class of 2026, just up the road in Wadley. He's less than an hour away. So that one was so crucial for you to get. But now you've got some serious ground to make up, some real work to do. But I think it can happen for Auburn. You're still not out of it with C.D. Morgan, the number one player in the state of Alabama, even though he's committed to Alabama. And there are several other players in Alabama, in Georgia, and around that Auburn is going to be in on until signing day in December. So you stood on ground. You had this idea. It wasn't right. And now you've got to make up for it. I think Auburn can, but that's where you go from here. And as we say just about every time we talk, wins on the football field will help all of this too.
Yeah, it will help a certain percentage. I think John Cohen feels very strongly that where Auburn is in recruiting has nothing to do with where they're at, the results on the field the first couple of years. Essentially he thinks it's all NIL. Auburn has 11 commits in the 2026 class, 5 4 stars, 6 3-star athletes. They're going to have to get a 5-star athlete or two in there, I'm telling you. But you're right. They are ranked 65th. Notably outside the top 25 from the SEC, you've got Oklahoma at 36. My sources have told me they've taken a similar approach to NIL as Auburn. So with only 15 commits, not shocking to see them there. I think we'll see them climb the recruiting rankings. Mississippi State comes in at 37. There, Ole Miss is outside the top 25 at 27. Arkansas is at 26. South Carolina comes in at 25. Auburn is not necessarily alone. Missouri is at 76. They have not recruited from high school the best, but Eli Drinkowitz has done, I think, a pretty good job with finding diamonds in the rough and getting guys from as well, too. So, again, some notable schools there outside of the, even the top 50, man. Like, it's crazy. So, will we see them about face? Kentucky comes in at 50. They're not a football powerhouse, but certainly we're used to seeing them kind of bordering the top 30. Vanderbilt obviously down at 43. Auburn's got to get up there in the top 10 right now. You've got the usual suspects. You've got Georgia, A&M, Bama, and LSU and Texas. And I'm telling you, they're spending money right now.
Oh, yeah.
The school I just named is acting as if the limit does not exist.
Yeah, they don't care about it at all. They never have, and they never will. And there's nobody that can stop them from doing that. Auburn just has to try and get back on that level. Can you get to the level of a Texas or a Texas A&M in terms of spending money consistently to that extent every single year? Probably not. Let's just be honest. But you don't have to. Just compete. If you're a top 10 class every year and the coaching is good, you can win national championships. At least make it to the college football playoff and then give yourself a chance to win a national title, right? That's all Auburn fans are asking for. Auburn is a good enough place, a good enough athletics department, and a rich enough athletics department to be top 10 every single year in recruiting and the rankings on the field, and that is good enough to compete and win a national title here.
Yeah, look, also, if you look at the top 10 in recruiting right now, LSU, with only 16 commits, comes in at 8, right?
Yeah.
They have a average composite ranking of 93.66. That is the highest composite average in the top 10 in recruiting right now. And again, the schools ranked in front of them have 5 commits or more. USC has 31 commits in their class. Georgia has 30. Texas A&M has 26. Alabama has 20 right now. Texas has 21. So it's a numbers game for a lot of other people. Oregon, pretty notably, inside the top 10 with only 15 commits, 2 5-stars there for Dan Lanning. If you're Auburn, if this class lands anywhere over 20 commits, I feel pretty strongly they'll be firmly inside the top 15. Right? It is a numbers game for Auburn at this point.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's what you need. You top 20 desperately, top 15 you feel good, top 10 you're in a really good spot, especially where you've been for some time this season or this cycle rather. You can start flirting with top 20, top 15 or top 10, then you're in a good spot for sure.
Jacob, fascinating conversation as always. Can Auburn about facing time to save the 2026 recruiting class? Saving them means getting inside the top 15 in my book. Now, I've reported on this. If this rule change stands, then I think that you'll see the normal institutions continue to stack classes year after year after year. If for some reason they can enforce a cap in a meaningful way, and when I say that, I mean schools aren't just using their collectives to get around the cap and spend as much as they want, then I think the days of stacking top 5 classes 3, 4, 5, 6 years in a row are over, right? That's where this is what they were trying to accomplish, but the power players have said no, we don't want that. We've got more money than you, and we want to be able to show it without without remorse. Now, and that's essentially what this suit is about. It's like, look, we got more money than you, and we want to be able to flaunt that we have more money than you.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Jacob, I want to thank you for joining me as always, man. Before we get out of here, tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, you can listen in Monday through Friday, 2 to 4 p.m. Central Time. If you're in Auburn, Opelika, that's ESPN 1067 on your radio dial, or you can always tune in on our website, espnau.com.
Guys, that's it for another great edition of the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report. If you're in the comments after the video, do us a favor, smash that super thanks button. Your financial support helps keep us going. We were on site at SEC Media Days for you guys all week last week, bringing you all the coverage you can handle with our good friend Jacob Goins. Also, hit like and subscribe. We are the War Report on every social media platform. TW Report on TikTok. We're signing off, and as always, War Eagle.